Thank you for tuning in to the Simple Sophisticate podcast, the show that is part of the Simply Luxurious Life online destination, cultivating true contentment, the art of living a life of quality over quantity. Visit the blog, The Simply Luxurious Life, at our simplified URL, tsll.co or thesimplyluxuriouslife.com to find the show notes for each podcast episode, as well as much more weekly content to elevate your everyday and deepen your contentment. From a Monday motivational post, recipes, videos of the cooking show series, style and decor inspiration, French and British inspired content, and readers' favorite regular weekly post, This and That, which is posted each Friday morning. Now to today's episode. Welcome to the Simple Sophisticate podcast, where intelligent living is paired with signature style. I'm your host, Shannon Ables. And whether you're listening on your commute, exercising, working in the garden, or sitting down with a hot cup of tea or a cafe au lait, thank you for tuning in. Let's get started. Welcome to the 367th episode of The Simple Sophisticate. And in today's episode, we are going to talk, really about an overall life ethos, but specifically through the lens of decor, and bring you examples from my recent trip abroad to England, as it was modeled to me and as it further solidified and further taught these lessons to be true. What am I talking about? I'm talking about slow decorating. Today, I'm going to share with you 10 ideas and approaches on how to create decor that welcomes and comforts, specifically how to embrace the ethos of slow decorating. Now, throughout this post, I'm sharing images both captured in my home just in the last couple days, and primarily images from the vacation rental I stayed at while staying out in the Durham County, or County Durham, in North England. That is the British interior designer Rita Koenig's North Farm. It is spectacular. It is the aesthetic that I ascribe to and try to evoke in my own home. And you'll see why in the few images I include. I share more images in the travel diary post, the second of 3 travel diary posts I shared throughout my trip. I shared one just yesterday, as well as one the previous week, and then one the first week of my trip. You will need to explore becoming a top tier member to read the travel diary posts, but if the taste that I share in the show notes today in episode 367 interests you, I encourage you to explore further those travel diary posts as I go into more detail and share many, many more images. And in fact, I'll actually share a lot of videos in November's A Cup of Moments of the entire house. All right, so with that said, we're going to talk about what slow decorating is. Now, this is a topic I've been wanting to write about and explore more, for quite more than a year, and I really have been living it all of my adult life. So let's begin with a quote. And this actually has nothing specifically to do with decorating, but generally about living well. From the World Institute of Slowness in Norway, quote, "The fastest way to a good life is to slow down," end quote. Walking into a beautifully decorated home, an abode that welcomes you, gives you a hug, and invites you to stay without saying a word, takes time to curate. And even those homes that someone else has curated for themselves, and we feel this way when we walk across the threshold into their home, it is, after all, their home and not ours. It's filled with their choices, items, and detail that they will appreciate more deeply than we ever could, even if we can understand why they appreciate it. All of which is to say, curating a home for ourselves that gives us a hug each time we return home will take time. And so it is in our practice of patience and trust that the house will reveal what we need in time, so long as we live consciously and feel our way honestly through living well in our homes. That is when we gradually begin to see and then feel how wonderfully loving and comforting a slowly decorated home can be to elevate our days and thus our lives. Now, if when you see the term or just heard the term in this conversation, slow decorating, you thought to yourself, but I want to feel comfortable in my home now, Shannon. I can't live without basic comforts. I hear you, and I completely concur, which is why it's important to keep this approach, slow decorating, in mind even more. Suzanne Irma from Neptune shares, quote, slow decorating is about planning, considering, refining. It's about having a strategy, a direction of travel, which helps you clarify those decorating decisions, light or dark, nickel or brass, wood or tiles. And it's about enjoying the process as much as the results, end quote. As we will talk about through the 10 tips I'll talk about in today's episode, you don't just say, I'm going to be a slow decorator and I'm going to, decorate my home slowly. You have to know what you're slowly evolving and slowly curating. You have to know what your aesthetic is. Now, as many of you know from previous episodes, and if you read the blog or you've read the tour posts on my blog, you know I'm very much inspired by the arts and crafts movement, by the English cottage aesthetic with a touch of Parisian elegance, adding a little bit of the coastal comfort. That guides me and has been guiding me for years. And it has been in just the last handful of years that I've known what that was. And so when I got that clarity, it made the decision so much easier. It didn't mean those purchases happened quickly or immediately, but it did at least narrow down the choices, point me in the right direction, and focus my attention on what would fill those gaps the way I wanted them to be filled, to feel truly at home in my space. And so it is with today's episode, I would like to share with you these 10 tips to provide exactly that, the strategy for moving forward so that you do continually feel comforted as you go, even though your home may not have everything you think you need. You will still feel comforted because the decisions you make along the way are going to feel right. They're going to bring you the comfort you seek, nourish you in the way that you need. So choosing to go this route of slow decorating is also a planet-friendly approach. Again, Emery from Neptune goes on to say, quote, this slower method also supports the desire for sustainability and preservation. If you have an unhurried approach to furnishing your home, you'll likely buy less, but buy better. And those pieces will have longevity, end quote. This concept of quality over quantity has been the founding principle of living simply luxuriously and what inspired the Simply Luxurious Life blog and thus this podcast and how it all came to be. And it is just this particular concept of quality over quantity that will serve us well, but also the planet, should we choose to trust that with time, many benefits for many entities, ourselves, talented artisans, and the environment will be enjoyed. Now, while I have known this concept, as I mentioned, to be worth putting into practice in my own life, and I have put it into practice as I shared in episode 361, where I detailed the 3-year journey of customizing my home, Le Papillon, I saw with my own eyes how choosing such an approach can evolve over years and create an amazingly special place. When I had the opportunity to stay for a week at British interior designer Rita Koenig's North Farm in Durham, England. And those are the pictures primarily that I'm going to share with you in the show notes if you want to take a look at them. Simply visit the blog, thesimplyluxuriouslife.com/podcast 367. So let's dive right in to the 10 tips for how to embrace this ethos of slow decorating. So number 1, I'm going to just pretend, and maybe you already know your aesthetic that you prefer. But if you don't know the aesthetic you prefer, start with number one. And even if you do, I think it's a great place to start because it's going to clarify, confirm, and really solidify for sure what you want and why you want it. So here we go. Number one, mine your life experience of where and why you felt at home in your past. Now, for me, when I was decorating my kitchen, this was back in 2020, so I was redesigning it, I reflected back to the kitchens that inspired me, such as Patricia Wells in Provence, Susan Herman Lomas in Normandy, and now Rita Koenig in England. And so I, having taken a lot of pictures, but also remember just in my mind's eye, what were those little details that made it more pleasurable to cook? Why did it feel so good to be in those kitchens? Granted, the company, of course, and the talent and the expertise, but functionality-wise, spacing-wise, those details, what made this kitchen a place you want to just keep lingering in? And so, as I mentioned just recently at Rita Koenig's kitchen in North Farm, I took note of, I'm going to give you a very specific example here, of a large ceramic salt canister that was both beautiful and highly functional, as I am always using salt in my cooking, and my current container in my kitchen is always having to be refilled. So I have played with this idea before for a handful of years about, okay, I need a bigger canister. And I've seen other cooks who are frequent home cooks that have bigger canisters for their salt. So you need the right size, but you also want something that's beautiful to the aesthetic that you're trying to create. And so to my delight, I found a Delft pedestal canister for only 10 pounds. And now I have a functional as well as beautiful piece in my kitchen that also holds wonderful memories of my travels. Now I detail all of the antiques that I brought home and vintage finds that I brought home during this most recent trip in the third of 3 travel diary posts. It just was shared yesterday on the blog. I've linked to it in the show notes if you want to take a look. In the second of those travel posts, I also detail all the antiques shops that I went to. So if you are traveling in England or want to travel to England or will be up in County Durham, I highly recommend these shops. All right, so that's number one. Just take some time, take out a journal, do something that provides space and availability to reflect. And ask yourself, why did I feel so at home, for example, in my grandmother's kitchen? Or why did I sleep so well at that particular house? Or what was it about coming home to that particular apartment in my 20s that made me feel at peace? It doesn't have to be a big, like design idea. It can be something as simple as where you place the lamp, or what kind of chair you enjoyed sitting in, the style, or how you like to, how you appreciate light in your living room. Now, this is also something that I detail in my first and second book with regards to how to decorate in small spaces specifically. That's what I detail in my second book, Living the Simply Luxurious Life. But in my first book, I really talk about how to simply live well in your home and how to begin the journey of creating a home that you love, a sanctuary that is for you to be rejuvenated and nourished. So if you want a lot of specific deals on both of those, I highly recommend checking out my first as well as second book. All right, and so I've also included a picture in the show notes for today's episode of the salt canister, the Delft canister. It's not a canister. It's just too beautiful to be called a canister. But it's in the show notes if you want to take a look. Now in my kitchen. All right, so that's number one. Number two, wait until you find what speaks to you, and I promise it will speak to you. I want to begin with a quote from London-based interior designer Charlotte Boundy. Quote, "The best schemes evolve over time spent in our home, living in your home, gradually working out how you best use individual spaces, then curating rooms that evolve with time, experiences, and travel." End quote. So let's talk about framed artwork. Framed artwork that you have found at places that you traveled to and had wonderful memories, or you had great enjoyment at this particular event, or an exhibit of an artist you highly regard. Those would be moments where you both see something that catches your eye and speaks to you, but also holds a deeper memory exclusively for you. Part of slowly decorating is having the patience to wait until you find that piece of art, that piece of furniture, etc., that speaks to you. That when you hang it on the wall or place it in that spot that needs that one special piece, it just works. And it also makes you smile when your eyes see it each time you pass by. Do not rush and just purchase anything to fill space. Part of living with a blank spot that you do wish to fill is knowing what would work best there. And sometimes that takes time to know for certain. And then once you do know, finding it, that'll take some time. So it's really it's actually a 3-part process. So you have an empty space, you realize you don't have something. Then figuring out what will fill that space, that takes time. Living in your house, understanding how you function, how your house works best. And then once you know, with that clarity, trusting that you will find it and you will know when you have found it. This is very similar to getting to know ourselves and investing in relationships and our life journey's direction and path. It's that 3-step journey, choosing to be a student of ourselves. Once we have that knowledge, having the patience until we find what fits with our life journey, the puzzle pieces that are meant to be ours. Just because we know what we want doesn't mean we're going to find it like we would find it shopping at the grocery store. It doesn't work that way. And when we understand that, we bring a lot more peace to our days, a lot of peace to our mind, and thus we can enjoy the everyday and just let it be what it will be. Now, I want to just share an example of a piece falling into place. So, case in point, I have a blank wall. It's just after my foyer. As you walk into my home, leads into my living room. It's on the right-hand side. And whenever I photograph, there happens to be a chair that's close by to that. And I will often look the other direction because the blank wall behind this chair, it just doesn't look attractive in a good way. It's not empty in a good way. There needs to be something there. And I've always known that I've wanted to put something there since I moved in. It's been now going on 4 years, but I just couldn't solidify what would work best. So fast forward to my antiquing excursion in Barnard Castle this past couple weeks. And as I was poking around in one of the shops, there was this beautifully framed painting of a shepherd and their small flock of sheep and their dog set what looks to be the Lake District, but it might also simply just be Durham County. But there's tall, beautiful deciduous trees and sloping hills. And it immediately grabbed my attention. Now, prior to my trip, I would not have probably appreciated this painting as much as I did on this particular day, because on this trip, as many of you may know, I was going to go and have a guided tour in the Lake District. And I did do that, and you can read about it in the second travel diary post. But I would not have purchased this painting had I not been on this trip, number one. Number two, I wasn't planning on bringing home any paintings, framed or otherwise. That was not on my hope for going to bring home. That's a good idea because it's going to be easy to bring home. No, it would not be, and I don't want to do that. But what I noticed is that I didn't hesitate to purchase this particular piece of framed art. Number one, it was different from other framed pieces of art. It has a beautiful, unique frame. And it's not like the other art I have further down on this particular wall. It's really its own and stands out a bit. And so I did purchase it immediately. I didn't hesitate at all. And it wasn't that expensive either. But one of those things is just, it spoke to me because of my appreciation for Beatrix Potter and Lake District and this particular journey and my experience in this town and the kindness of the art dealers. But anyway, now it's hanging up and it's like, whoa. That space is finished. I might need to change the light switch plates from plastic to brass, but I was always going to do that when I was able to afford it. Other than that, it's done. And I hadn't really directly or intentionally been looking for something, but I knew with clarity what would work there. All right. So that's number two. Wait until what you need or what you're looking for finds you, because it will speak to you and you will know. Number 3, thoughtfully place books in every room. Quote, "A room without books is like a body without a soul." End quote. Many of you know this quote very well, especially if you're a bibliophile. This is from Cicero. And I have gone on and on about this reality that I discovered while staying in North Farm. So I will spare you going on and on much further. But needless to say, there were books in nearly every room at Rena Koenig's North Farm. There were books, but they weren't cluttered and it wasn't overwhelming. And they were thoughtfully chosen for each room as far as the genres and the focus. It wasn't that there was one particular theme or genre in any particular room, minus the kitchen. But even then, the kitchen had other books as well, not just cookbooks. But it was based on the function and what you might want to do in that particular room and what you might be curious about. They really had intentionally chosen where each book went, and they did ask directly to have guests put books back where we found them, not just to randomly put them back. So we don't want books to clutter our homes. We want them thoughtfully chosen, have a handful where you might sit down, neatly stack them on the side table or console table. Maybe find bookends that make you smile if you come across such items. And remember that books not only provide interest to the onlooker, but offer something to do and to learn and to explore and to encourage us, those who live in the house, to slow down and just be. Now, this approach, I think, is important because sometimes you might find that it's like you think to yourself, well, if I purchase this book, I don't know when I'm going to have time to read it. If I don't read it, why should I buy it? But here's the thing. If you have a library, if you have designated spots throughout your home for your books, you've created a library that you can, when you have time, when you are inspired, read that book in the future. You are basically stocking your library. So don't feel bad that you haven't read every single book in your home. Just know that the books you bring in are things that have caught your interest, your eye, you want to learn from, so on and so forth. And so as long as I'm welcoming books and topics of interest that speak to me with my purchases or my discoveries, I will always have my own personal library to pick from based on my mood and what I need to learn or relearn. Now, as well, the books need not be all new. In fact, it is the vintage or consigned books with covers or bindings that are not easily found any longer or no longer in publication that provoke interest to be pulled off the shelf and looked at even more. And this provides depth to a home's decor. Granted, you can absolutely go out and shop in consignment shops and vintage shops for books, but maybe your family or a relative or a beloved mentor has books that they no longer read or use or want to give away, and so those books come with a story as well. And I think when you have a layering of books from different eras, you are remembering what was and also valuing that, whatever it might be, and not always requiring everything to be new. And that's, again, what slow decorating allows to happen. And that's also what gives layers of history and meaning and exploration and just that special quality of that special something you can't really put your finger on. So that's number 3, thoughtfully place books in every room. Number 4, lampshades of all sorts. Of course, if we live in a more modern home, there will likely be overhead or ceiling lighting. But let me just say again, as I often do, we do not need to use the overhead lighting, especially if it's not in the kitchen or a workspace. I never turn on the overhead lights in my house. And I have so many because it's a more modern house. The only time I turn on overhead lights is when I am filming a cooking episode. That is it. In my own kitchen, I do not turn on overhead lights when I'm cooking. I have enough light where I'm cooking and enough daylight in my house to do it. And it's just a more comforting feeling. But that, again, is my preference. That is just my experience and how I feel at home in my house. So with that said, if you too are kind of curious on how to incorporate more lamps and stray away from the overhead lights in your house, trying to find lampshades of all sorts may be the right motivator for you to figure out what type of lamps, whether floor or table, and where you want to put them. And it will also leave you on the hunt for lamp bases and shades that provide the proportion and functionality that adds beauty as well. And again, this will take time. And you can also do picture lamps, as far as those ones that come out on the side of, say, bookshelves or above a framed painting. Those are lovely lights to add ambiance, and sconce lighting, things like that. So speaking specifically, though, about lampshades, you do want to have a few high-quality fabric pleated shades, but you don't want fabric pleated shades everywhere. Rena Koenig did not have fabric pleated shades everywhere in her home. She has a few, and they're lovely, and they're thoughtfully placed. But then she also has ones that some are made of linen, as you'll see in the picture that I included, and has a lovely, unique design of poked out holes. It's a lot of fun. It's in the library. She also had card lampshades, so that what you typically see, but printed in different colors and things like that. You can find a lot of these lampshades at consignment or vintage shops, and they don't need to be perfect. They just need to be thoughtfully chosen. In fact, they don't even need to sit straight on your lamp top. If it's something you love, buy it anyway. And I will say this because I thought it just made me smile, and it just made me appreciate the perfection of imperfection. There were lamps in the house that the lampshade was beautiful. The base was unique and thoughtfully chosen, but it wasn't necessarily straight. It just didn't fit properly, but that didn't matter. It functioned. That's what's most important. So look for, fabric, yes, texture, different colors, how much light you want to come through the shade. And the key is knowing what the base of your lamp is. So what is the structure of where the light bulb is? And then that'll determine what size you want. A fun, great place to start, and I actually have one of their lamps and lamp shades, is Pookie Lighting, and they're based in England, but they do ship to the States. You will need to adapt the cord or get an adapter. I just use an adapter in my house for these lamps. But there's a lot of fun ideas to start playing around with lampshades. And when you begin to purchase the high quality fabric shades, go to someone who knows how to make them. And I'll be sharing more about that in future episodes and posts. Okay. So that's number 4. Start welcoming lampshades of all sorts. Number 5, find vintage chairs and have them refurbished and reupholstered. So regardless of your preferred decor aesthetic, quality seating is worth investing in. You want chairs that are comfortable and make it incredibly hard to leave in the best possible way, not because you can't get out of them, in other words. And while you will likely have to pay a bit, or a lot, more money for a well-made chair, if you find a vintage chair, it will be less than a brand new version of the same style, and you will be able to customize it with the fabric you love. I've talked about this before in previous decor episodes because I've done this with more than a few chairs in my house. So 1, 2, 3. Yes, I have 3 vintage chairs, consigned chairs, and I've refurbished one entirely because the padding and the seating needed to be redone. The other ones did not need to be redone with regards to the cushions, but they just need to be reupholstered. And it just adds signature style. It allows you the freedom to tailor to what how you're decorating. And a vintage chair is likely not going to be easy to find for most people as far as a particular style. And you're going to have a unique style that suits your taste, that makes you smile. And again, it'll take time to find these chairs. Some of my chairs I found over 20 years ago. But I highly recommend this. And again, this is part of that slow decorating. It takes time to wait for, the reupholsterer to do the work. It takes time to know what fabric you want. But again, when it all comes together and that chair comes into your house and it sits in the spot you've been looking and waiting for to be filled, you'll be so glad you waited. You'll be so glad you waited. All right. I've included a picture of one of my favorite, and there were many to choose from in this house, vintage chair that Rena Koenig refurbished with a Lewis and wood fabric, and then she put a lovely oversized pillow in it, upholstered with a unique and different fabric. I love that chair. That was the chair I sat in quite often. All right, so that's number 5. I have 5 more tips on how to embrace slow decorating that I will share with you on the other side of a few words from our sponsor. The Simple Sophisticate is sponsored by Bombas. Fall is here, and you know what that means. It's layering season. Bombas makes it easy with socks, tees, and underwear that feel good and do good because every item purchased gives essential clothing to someone who needs it. Did you know that socks, tees, and underwear are the 3 most requested items in homeless shelters? When you buy your Bombas, you are also giving one to someone who needs it. 1 item purchased equals 1 donated. And Bombas also has a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you get a hole in your socks, or they get eaten by your dog, Bombas will do whatever it takes to make it right. I have to say, this happened. Nell went through a few of my Bombas socks, so I reached out to Bombas. This was this past winter, and I said, can I have a few replacements for my socks? And you know what they did? They gave me a promo code to go purchase a handful of socks, and I have more Bombas socks replacing the ones that sweet girl Nell chewed through as a puppy. They do follow through on this promise. I can guarantee that. The Bombas Fall collection is packed with nothing but the coziest materials like extra soft, extra long staple cotton and merino wool that's so plush it feels like little pillows for your feet. And as someone has been wearing Bombas for over 4 years now, it is the only pair of socks. These are the only brand of socks I wear, whether I'm walking, whether I'm skiing, which is coming up soon, whether I'm simply relaxing around the house and want to keep my feet warm. As a Simple Sophisticate listener, you can receive 20% off your first purchase. Go to bombas.com/sophisticate and use the promo code sophisticate for this opportunity of 20% off your first purchase. That's Bombas, BOMBAS.com/sophisticate, and use the promo code sophisticate at checkout. The Simple Sophisticate is also sponsored by Honeylove. So recently when I was traveling, I wore a bodycon midi dress. And so I wore shapewear underneath. And in previous experiences of wearing shapewear, it became a bit tedious with the legs rolling up. You know what I'm talking about if you've ever had a shapewear that just didn't stay put. Well, now Honeylove is my go-to choice for shapewear that stays where you want it and does what you want. And they also have bras that are so comfortable you'll forget you're wearing them. You may even want to sleep in them. Honeylove's bestseller crossover bra is so comfortable it's sure to be your new go-to. This bra gives all the support of traditional bras without using any underwires. Plus, mesh detailing adds a touch of sexy. This is the one bra you'll actually enjoy wearing and won't want to take off. And if you are tired of bras that cause bulging in the back, Honeylove's bras are designed with back smoothing fabric to prevent bra bulge. For the more relaxed lounge bra, I recommend their V bra. It offers the support of a traditional bra without the uncomfortable underwire. It's designed to lift and separate with molded cups, and it is not a shelf-like bra that creates a uniboob effect. But it doesn't stop there. Honeylove has more than just bras. They have incredibly comfortable shapewear, tanks, and leggings for everyday support. Pair your V bra with their breathable and versatile leggings, or get the matching shapewear to your crossover bra. Honeylove has you covered for the everyday look, workouts, weddings, and more. So treat yourself to the best bras and shapewear on the market and save 20% at honeylove.com/simple. Use this exclusive link to get 20% off. honeylove.com/simple. And after you purchase, they might ask you where you've heard about them. Please support the Simple Sophisticate and let them know that we sent you. It's time to ditch the underwire for good. Thanks to Honeylove. Is hiring a challenge? Yep. Do you love a challenge? Also, yes. You need a hiring partner that can help you rise to the challenge. You need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites searching for candidates with the right skills, Indeed's powerful hiring platform can help you do it all. They streamline hiring with powerful tools that find you matched candidates. With Instant Match, over 80% of employers get quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job, according to Indeed data. And that's what's great about Indeed. It puts all of your hiring needs in one place, which makes it easy for you to find what you want without wasting time so that you can do the job that you want to get done and hire the people that will help you do it well. Did you know that candidates you invite to apply are 3 times more likely to apply to your job than candidates who only see it in a search, according to the U.S. Indeed data? And Indeed's hiring platform matches you with quality candidates instantly, which is what you want from the beginning. Even better, Indeed's the only job site where you only pay for applications that meet your must-have requirements. Join more than 3 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. As a Simple Sophisticate listener, start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/simple. Offer good for a limited time. Claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/simple. Just go to Indeed.com/simple and support this show by saying you heard about it on this podcast. Indeed.com/simple. Indeed.com/simple. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. All right, welcome back to our list of 10 ways to embrace the ethos of slow decorating. Let's jump right back in. Number 6. Include, display, and use beloved collections or pieces from family. So usually, we don't know when or what will be inherited or given to us by family or friends that either have sadly passed away or, what is far easier, they just don't want what they are giving away, but you do, potentially. It is important to permit yourself to not accept something that you just don't want or like, even if you love the person dearly. Be honest, because usually there is someone who would love these items and they will be grateful you passed up the offer so that they could welcome it into their home. The collections or pieces could be china, artwork, jewelry, books, furniture. The possibilities are endless, but make sure that these items speak to you and they also provide a function. Now, I've included a picture of a collection of tea cups and saucers, and there's teapots that were found in North Farm. And these were actually Rita Koenig's mother's own collection that she designed. And they're beautiful, simple, but delicate, white with blue small print detail. And, this comes obviously with many memories, many I won't know, and it's not my place to know. But just the fact that you have a tea set designed by your mother that's no longer available, by the way. You cannot find this anymore. But it's also highly functional. It's the main teacup collection in the main kitchen area. There's just something special about that. And it comes with a huge memory, all sorts of memories. So that's just one example. So number 6 is include, display, and use beloved collections or pieces from family and friends. Number 7, invest in china collections that are investments but will be used and loved. Beautiful dishes, plates, glassware, mugs, teacups, and saucers. Save up and purchase what you love and is made well. For example, I love Guienne, and I had to smile when I saw that Rita had a set of 6 Guienne filet breakfast cups and saucers. These are incredibly hard to find, but worth the search, as they are well made, sturdy, and beautiful in their French simplicity. And while they are a decent investment, they are one that I would gladly make, as they would be with me and used forever. So I've included a picture of these breakfast mugs. And so these breakfast mugs, they look like oversized teacups, but they're very sturdy, and they have the lovely thumb rest that Guienne is known for, which I love. This happened to be the teacup that I used most of the time I was there. Absolutely love them. And they are not currently available online, which makes them even more special. So those kind of should I or shouldn't I, if you love it, if it's something you know you'll use, save up, and yes, get it for yourself. You will add, again, quality that is going to last a long time, and you will be supporting a brand that creates beautiful items. So number 7 is invest in china collections that are investment but will be used and loved. Number 8, add vases, small and large, and fill them with petite floral bouquets, small buds, or full, abundant statement arrangements. So I mentioned in Monday's motivational post this week that I had the opportunity to go watch a brand new French film that is not going to be released in the States until February and not released in France until November, called The Taste of Things. It is beautiful film. Especially if you love food, And I write more in detail in that post, so I encourage you to go read it. But one of the many details that I noted while watching this film was the small, and I will say this, very small vases that were filled with, for example, petite chamomile blooms from the herb garden to adorn the dining room table for elaborate multi-course meals. This was a reminder that vases of all sizes are needed and can be used to complete a table for a meal or placed on a side table. And the flowers need not be expensive or even purchased, but simply picked from your herb garden. So I'm always on the hunt for vases, but not an intentional hunt. If I see something, if it speaks to me, I'll grab it and I'll bring it home. Because for a while, I purchased the new vases, the clear vases, the generic vases, and I've realized they just don't add the punch that I want in my decor. So I'm gradually ebbing away from those, recycling some of them, not all of them. I'm still using some of them, and making sure I'm more thoughtful in my vase purchases and discoveries. So that's number 8. Add vases so that you can bring a touch of Mother Nature into your home, which really creates a warm welcome and softens the room. Number 9, it also provides an awareness of the seasonality, so it lets you know what season it is, which is fun. Number 9, it's okay if an imperfection occurs to special pieces while living in your home. So one of the teapots I used frequently while at North Farm had a broken teapot top knob. It didn't matter. It functioned as it needed to, and it was a uniquely beautiful teapot. There was no doubt there is a story behind how it was broken, and it may be something grand or it may not be anything big at all. But this lends itself all the more to the lives lived in the house. Of course, if you can fix something, glue it back together, give that a go, but most definitely do that. That too will deepen the story and likely the smile when you spy it or use the item. So I've included a picture of this said teapot. You can't really see the broken handle on top, but it's significant if you could see it in a profile shot. But I'm using it as you would use a teapot. It's beautiful, as you'll see, classic Brown Betty, but it's not a Brown Betty, but it looks like a Brown Betty, but it has a detail on the top that looks like it has a cozy on it, but it doesn't have a cozy. Long story short, take a look at the show notes. But it's that idea that, yeah, things are going to break, that, paint's going to chip, wallpaper's going to rip. It's okay. Invest anyway. This is your home and you're going to live in it. And that's what happens. So that's number 9. It's okay if an imperfection occurs to special pieces while living in your home. Number 10, find joy in the journey of finding what works and what you love. Quote from John Sims Hildrich, Neptune's co-founder. Quote, decorating should be approached rather like gardening. It's a lifelong quest and never quite finished. End quote. Slow decorating, similar to the enjoyment of gardening, is a classroom in and of itself for life and how to live well in the everydays. If all we want is a finished home, and I put that in air quotes, we will miss out on so many wonderful moments, connections, and experiences that will elevate our everydays as we journey toward the vision we have in our heads of our finished home. Case in point, I will forever remember the gentleman at the antique shop who I visited no less than 5 different times in 3 days as I plotted how I would be able to bring home the Grosse Pointe embroidered stool. And I've included a picture on today's episode show notes. He and I have remained in contact as he shared his email, and I gave him my business card because we shared more than a few good laughs over the idea that I would even consider shipping this home. And he kindly packaged it up for me, and it did eventually arrive safely at home with me, as you'll see in the top picture of today's show notes. If we are only focused on acquiring, we miss the human connection. We miss the opportunities to deepen our appreciation of what is really needed to live a deeply fulfilling life. So many of the pieces and furniture and decor in my home have a story behind them, a person I think of fondly, and this could not have happened without time. A journey of slowly decorating a home that has become a sanctuary that is more loving and welcoming than I had imagined and even hoped for. So number 10, our final point, and I think our most important point, is find joy in the journey of finding what works and what you love. Now, approaching our home's decor slowly, not rushing, but savoring the journey of discovering what brings us true comfort, what delights us, what brings us restoration, can actually save our budget over time, but also save us down the road from buying to replace something that didn't work out as we had hoped. While some may point out that our homes are full of things and things can be replaced, and we may actually have to or want to move in the future, I have to push back a little bit on this, against this argument, and say, until you know the comfort that can be felt from a home that encourages you to be truly who you are, that supports your dreams and passions, you have not experienced such a priceless gift. And while, yes, the items, the furniture, the decor, etc., cost money, because we have taken our time and selectively chosen and found said items, we welcome not only an item, but a story and a piece of ourselves we want to retain, whether it reflects part of our past to treasure or a hope for the future. And within that past and future, we select pieces that encourage us to live well in the present moment. It is difficult to describe what such a home that we thoughtfully decorate over time looks like exactly, because it will be unique to each of us. But when we cultivate this for ourselves, we give ourselves more life and energy to be able to savor well each day of our lives than we would if we were just existing, just surviving in a home with or a house, I should say, with 4 walls. Our homes, no matter how grand or petite, have a power, which, should we wish to unearth it, to nourish us so that our confidence in our dreams is stronger, our mind more open and full of possibility, and our curiosity awakened. And so here is the thing. You will never entirely finish decorating your sanctuary, because so long as we are growing, living, and savoring life as we journey, so too will our homes evolve in how they can best comfort and nourish each of us. I guess a better way of describing slow decorating is to call it mindfully decorating. It cannot be rushed, but we must consciously be aware in our everydays so that not only do we know how to live well, but then be able to find and discover the items that will play the role we have a need for in our sanctuary. I hope today's episode gave you some encouragement to slow down and savor the journey of decorating your sanctuary, to be willing to wait, to be willing to trust that you will find what it is you're looking for. And believe me, if I can just speak from my own experience, there have been times I was certain I was never going to find that wallpaper, never going to find that right fabric, never going to find, for example, that painting. And then it just happens because you keep looking, but you're not forcing it. You're just open mind, just kind of sending the intention out, but then letting go, sending the intention out, letting go, and you find it. And there are many things I'm still putting an intention out, haven't found it yet, but that's part of the journey. That's part of the fun. All right. Wishing you a wonderfully treasure-filled journey of discovering for not only your home's decor, but how you live most contentedly. You can check out the show notes at thesimplyluxuriouslife.com/podcast 367, where you'll find those images, as well as 3 different past episodes and posts that really detail how to approach this idea of decorating. We talk about the importance of investing in key decor pieces. That was episode 344. And then episode 361 is the one I mentioned earlier about the many, 33 in fact, lessons I learned while customizing my home over 3 years. And then I also included a post, not an episode, just a post that shares 13 unexpected forms of clutter preventing your everyday life from soaring. Now, I'll be right back with a petit plaisir for Anglophiles, but also anyone who loves well-written comedies. I'll be right back. So this week's petit plaisir is a comedy series, a British comedy series. Maybe you call it a dramedy. You could probably call it a dramedy, but I think it's primarily a comedy that I had no idea about until and because of my travels. As you know, if you travel, you know that they give you access to all sorts of different series that we wouldn't necessarily have here in the States if you're traveling abroad. And this one I had never heard of. And I don't know why, but now I know, and I'm forever going to be recommending it. What am I talking about? I'm talking about a new comedy that was released back in October 2022 on Sky TV, so in the UK exclusively. Emma Anderton stars in this new comedy titled Funny Woman, and it's adapted from the novel that was written by Nick Hornby, released back in 2015, but his novel was titled Funny Girl. He is still one of the co-writers of this TV series, but they have changed the name to Funny Woman, and I think it's a wise thing to do. If you know or have read any of my articles or posts about the difference between a woman and a girl, just the verbiage here. But anyway, it's also produced by Emma Anderton along with many other female producers, and they've been very intentional about the message it's conveying. Even though it's set back in the 60s in London, it brings a 21st century awareness with regards to gender and the feminine voice. And storytelling through the feminine voice, even though Nick Hornby was the writer. There's a lot of awareness and I appreciated this the details in the script. So let me just share a little bit about what it's about. So it centers around the character named Barbara Parker, who lives in northern England, Blackpool, and she works at her widowed father's candy shop, and they get along wonderfully. She is a local beauty queen, but Barbara is determined to head to London and make a name for herself, not in the beauty industry, not as a model, but as an actress, an actor. And she's inspired by Lucille Ball because at this time, Lucille Ball is well known around the world as I Love Lucy premiered in 1951. And Barbara has a knack for comedy, and she's really good with quick quips and one-liners and just a hoot. And her and her dad, sit down and watch different comedy shows on the radio together, and she's just really learned how to get a good laugh. And she thinks quickly on her feet. Now, if you know who Emma Anderton is, you know that she is classically beautiful. She's striking and very good looking. They have dyed her hair blonde. It looks natural, but as the character even says, she's a brunette. And if you know her, you know that she is a brunette. But it works wonderfully, and it suits the times. She definitely does, paired with her comedic talent and her looks, have good reason to believe she might be able to make it big in the city of London. Naive, yes, she is, but she also has a tremendous amount of common sense and intuition, and through the first 2 episodes, we see her persevere and rise above unwanted situations with those who wish to take advantage. And she befriends her co-workers along the way, and with her humor and genuine thoughtfulness, she continues to seek out opportunities to make a name for herself, having arrived in London at the middle of episode 1. Now, each episode, there are 6 in the first season, is approximately 45 minutes in length, and there is a scheduled second season coming. It hasn't been released yet, but the first season is 6 episodes in length. And I had the opportunity to watch nearly all 5 full episodes, and I didn't get to even touch the 6th episode because my plane touched down in Seattle, and I was like, no, keep flying, let me keep watching. I was torn because I wanted to arrive, and I also wanted to finish the series because I didn't know where I was going to find it. So the series is available on Sky. If you live in the UK, you know about the television distributor Sky, and it's very hard to find in the States. I did provide a link to be able to download it, so you can give that a go with the link that I provide on the show notes for this episode, because you can do that. But if you live in the UK, you have access to it more readily. I had not ever heard of this show, but I did know who Emma Anderton was. Perhaps you have as well. She starred in the film Gemma Bovary, which was released in 2015 and is set in the northern French countryside after World War II. And Anderton as the lead is reason enough to watch this. The Guardian and many other UK TV critics have raved about her performance in this series. I genuinely love the series as well as her. I think this is a smart, witty series. I think they have, again, as I said, captured the zeitgeist and the awareness of the culture at the moment. If you liked the wit of The Marvelous Mrs. Mabel, and also the friendships of Sex and the City and Just Like That, I think this is the perfect series for you to watch. You're going to love it, as well as the retro wardrobes from the 60s, and Anderton looks amazing in them, so that's fun too. But here's the thing, and this is why I do love this show. Barbara Parker, who takes the stage name Sophie Straw, and her agent is played by Rupert Everett, who you may remember from My Best Friend's Wedding. She wants to be known for her talent and not her looks, which she is constantly struggling against, as we might imagine in these times, and more so in those times than now, but even still today. And that's where the forward thinking is that is appreciated. She has this awareness that she may not be taken seriously, even though this is what, she has to win them over with her comedic skills. And that's what she starts to do. Her quick-wittedness, her improvisational skills. This is what gradually starts to gain people's respect for what she's doing. And the entire cast, the regular cast, beginning with her roommate Marjorie, to the producer of the comedy series that she eventually lands, Dennis, to the 2 writers who write the comedy series, they're brilliant. There's a lovely dance on screen, and I just think you'll thoroughly enjoy this. You will want to binge it as much as I did. Anyway, this series is definitely suited for our times. I applaud the creators and writers as well as the acting, and I highly recommend watching Funny Woman. Here is a listen to the trailer.
Barbara is ever so slightly provincial. How about Sophie Straw?
I was born in Blackpool, and I came to London to be someone.
Anyone in particular?
My dad says that actresses are no better than common prostitutes.
Is your dad a vicar from Victorian times? Hello? You lot don't look like how I imagined. I thought you'd all be tweedy posh lads with pipes.
Boys hope to find someone like you. Comedy-wise, obviously.
This isn't going to last forever. Make the most of what you got while you've got it. God knows there'll soon be another young girl coming up behind you, prettier and bigger.
I've never met anyone like you.
Are you telling me you actually want to act?
Well, we'll send you out on some auditions with words.
No bikinis.
Yet.
Ever.
So the series is a Sky original. It's titled Funny Woman. It stars Emma Anderton, and you heard there the voice. You probably recognized it, Rupert Everett. And again, it is a delight. I think you will thoroughly enjoy it. Speaking of which, I hope you've enjoyed this week's Petit Plaisir, where each week ideas are shared to make the everyday all the more enjoyable. Tune in at the end of each episode where I'll recommend a book, a film, a show, a recipe, anything that is a simple pleasure to satiate your sophisticated taste. Now, before we wrap up today, I want to send a big thank you to all the comments that were left on the previous episode 366, regarding how to travel to Britain, international travel that is, with ease and comfort. I want to send a specific thank you to commenter Phyllis T. You wrote, "This podcast on international travel came at the perfect time. I'm heading to Japan for 3 weeks, first week of November. I love the ideas you shared about packing for the flight and making that part of the trip. I never considered wearing a dress, to be honest, but I have the perfect one and I'm going to try it. By the way, highly recommend doing that again. It went so well this time. I wore a dress going and coming. It was so comfortable. I fly business class," back to the comment, "I fly business class as well, so we'll change into some sleeping clothes because for me, it's a 12-hour trip going. I just love this episode. All of them are great, but for some reason, this one clicked with me on so many levels. Thank you for sharing your life with us." Phyllis, thank you so much for tuning in, for checking out the show notes, and taking time to share a comment. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful trip in November to Japan. And if you too are enjoying this show, enjoying this podcast, please write a review, share a positive ranking, leave a comment on the show notes, whatever you are able to do. It means so much, and it really does let new and potential listeners discover what this show is all about. All right. That's it for today's episode. You can find the show notes and everything we talked about at the blog, thesimplyluxuriouslife.com/podcast 367. And I'll be back with a brand new episode on Wednesday, November 1st. Wishing you a wonderful rest of October, and thank you for tuning in. Bonne journée. Thank you for tuning in to the Simple Sophisticate podcast, where intelligent living is paired with signature style. For more ideas and inspiration throughout the week, visit the blog, The Simply Luxurious Life, with the shortened URL tsll.co or thesimplyluxuriouslife.com. For more in-depth exploration of how to cultivate your own unique, simply luxurious life, pick up my new book, which became both a bestseller and #1 new release in France Travel, The Road to Le Papillon, Daily Meditations on True Contentment. Available in all 4 formats for your preferred reading or listening. My first book, titled Choosing the Simply Luxurious Life, and my second book, Living the Simply Luxurious Life, are also available in each of the 4 formats. Readers can now join the more intimate The Simply Luxurious Life international community by becoming members of the blog, which offers the benefits of ad-free reading site-wide, unlimited access and exclusive access to content on the blog, such as the monthly A Couple Moments with Shannon video chat, tours of my home Le Papillon, the monthly What Made Me Smile post, and monthly Ponderings post, as well as the exclusive opportunity to enter all of the giveaways during the annual French and British weeks. To stay caught up on all things Simply Luxurious, the podcast, blog post, the cooking show, and receive exclusive news, as well as an extra dose of inspiration to jumpstart each new month, subscribe to the Simply Luxurious Life's free monthly newsletter, arriving on the last day of each month in your inbox. There is also a weekly newsletter, which is also free, and arrives each Friday to keep you caught up on the recent weekly posts on the blog. Enjoy with a hot cuppa or cup of morning coffee, and stay in the know about all things simply luxurious. Look for 2 new episodes of this podcast on the first and third Wednesday of each month. And until next time, I'm your host, Shannon Ables. Thank you for tuning in. Bonne journée.